Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yay! We're glad to be here. Thanks, Sid.
Yeah. This is just going to be such a great topic because all three of us have probably encountered this in some way or another. And, we're going to talk about scammers in real estate and what they're trying to do and how, I've worked with you guys several times, gals, several times in you know, identity theft and, people impersonating a seller and, on my end as an agent, I've had people call up and say they want money for their house and they're not the owner. So I just thought
There
it'd be
is
great
some
like just
crazy
talk
stuff. Yeah.
wire fraud and just you hear about it. We've experienced it, and I thought it'd just be really good just to let's talk about it. You
Well,
know,
that is a wonderful start. And we, as a title company, Lawyers Title, we get to experience a lot of these things because people trust us, which we have earned their trust, obviously, through being in the business for over 125 years. We understand the process that realtors go through, but also what our sellers and our buyers are going through, right? And
yeah,
so, one of the things that is on the top of our mind is keeping our clients safe. And even if you're not our client, we are out there to protect the consumer and we are doing things by the book. So you're going to really
yes.
like that. Patty, do you think we could start out? I'm Linda Degnan, by the way, with Lawyers Title. And this is my wonderful escrow officer, Patty White. We're partners. Hi, Patty.
Hey,
We're so excited. So, what I thought we could do, if you guys are okay with this, is start out talking a little bit about what is seller impersonation. We're seeing a lot of this where somebody is coming in and impersonating the seller. Sid, you mentioned this exact same thing where you had somebody reach out to you impersonating a seller. That's very common. Patty, do you want to talk a little bit about what these fraudsters are doing?
So we see the seller fraud mainly with vacant lots.
mhm,
Once in a while, non-owner occupied. So when we get a contract and it's vacant land or non-owner occupied, and we know non-owner occupied because their tax bill is going to a different address. So the very first thing that happens is not by mail, but overnight UPS. The owner of record is getting a letter from us. It's a long letter, but in a nutshell, it says, "Are you selling your property?" So they're asked to either call us or email. So that's step one. I have not had it personally happen on my desk yet, but two of my coworkers had it happen. One of my coworkers picked up the phone and it was the seller, and he said, "I got your letter. I am not selling my vacant land." So he looped in his attorney and it just kind of went from there. The deal canceled. But when he reached out to the listing agent was shocked because he even met the person and saw, I guess it would have been a fake driver's license.
mm,
So the seller fraud people won't be wanting homes with a loan. They just want all the money, and then they wouldn't be able to provide us the information to order a payoff. So
Yeah.
that's what we do for step one. So now
And
we have
Patty, can I add one thing? The homes, if you have a home where you own it free and clear, or land that you own free and clear,
mhm,
you're probably the most susceptible to getting fraudsters going after you. Basically, there's not a lender that you have to communicate with to sell that property or to pay off. And
right.
so the fraudsters are really looking for people that outright own their properties to go after those properties in impersonating. So I just thought that was really key. That was really well said, Patty. But just so you know, it is those people that have probably have no mortgage on there that are the most susceptible to getting a fraudster going after their property. So if you have
Absolutely.
that, it's really important to be in communication with a professional like Sid who can look up to make sure that you are still in title, which is a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
You
Like
have that
Absolutely.
access.
I'll give an example as a younger agent and then as a more experienced agent. So as a younger agent, when you're new, you're hungry, you want to get deals. You're like, you suffer from what's called commission breath, which is you're just like, trying to do about anything to help you get your first couple of deals under your belt. And so one time I met a guy and I, met him and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." And he gave me his address and everything like that. And because as a brand, like probably only six months to a year into the business, he actually asked, got the address and everything. And I did a full on CMA. I was new, so I spent a lot of time putting it together, printed out this, really nice 20-page CMA. And I went to the house to hand deliver it. Again, I'm trying to, earn the business,
Hmm.
get in there. And this guy answers the door and he's like, "Hi." And I'm like, "Hi, I'm Sid Smith. And you're interested in selling your house. And you asked me to put together this CMA." And he's like, "No, I'm not selling my house." And then I'm like, "I am so sorry. Forgive me, and I met so and so." And he's like, "Well, that's kind of
That.
weird. So and so is renting a room from us."
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm like, "I am terribly sorry. I never," and of course he was pretty flustered because again, I'm just knocking on his door, meeting him for the first time, but thought this was,
Yeah.
and then,
So
he called me
shocking.
later, completely naturally freaked out because he had teenage daughters and come to find out that this roommate guy is impersonating the seller. And it was scary. It was
Yeah.
not fun. And so
Yeah.
Absolutely.
now after, unfortunately, that incident, when I'm talking to a seller, we get phone calls. People say they want to sell their house and give us the address. Now I have learned, reach out to your title rep, use the tools that they give you, and I check who the owner is. In the beginning, I didn't do that, but
It's
now
so good to
I
verify
do.
that, right?
I hate
Verify
to
who
say it.
that owner is. It's
I
really
mean, nowadays I
important.
almost feel like, "Hey, that's great you're selling. Can I see your driver's license?" I almost,
Yeah,
I'm not at that point yet, but sometimes I almost feel that way because to get into a transaction and go through the whole process and get you involved, and it's money, it's time, it's resources, and then to find out that they're not the actual verified ID owner, it's happening. We all know about it, and we don't ever want that to happen to anybody.
right.
Fortunately, working with a professional real estate agent and with a title company, they've got so many amazing checks and balances to verify the
Mhm.
process. And so don't try to sell your house on your own, please. Use professionals. But here's an exact reason why. Man, I tell you, my title up, title team, with lawyers, they go through that step-by-step process, and that's what really helps to get an actual real transaction. Because the reality is
Yeah.
none of us get paid unless we actually close the deal.
That's right. That's right. And that's so important. You're really looking out for the interest of the potential seller and the buyer and assuring them that when they're making this big financial decision, they are getting what they're paying for. And I think that is so important. Patty, I think there's like some really good red flags that we could go over. So if you were to look at seller impersonation, there's some great flags that Patty mentioned at the beginning: vacant land, non-owner occupied, such as an investment property or a vacation property or a
Mhm.
rental property. Those are the kind of properties that these fraudsters like to go after,
I
these
was gonna say,
impersonators, right? And it typically it's a different address than the homeowner, because like Sid, you got to go up to the door of that homeowner and you found him there. They don't want that to happen, right? That's why they're going after those type of properties. And then with a non outstanding mortgage, there's no mortgages or liens on the property. They're looking for that. And if the property is for sale at below market, it's a really good indicator that there might be something suspicious going on. They want to sell it for less than what it's worth. If you're an agent, you're going to really question that, and having a professional like sit on your team will be a red flag for him, and he'd want to look at that. Why are they wanting to sell below market? And then
Mhm.
wanting a quick sale or generally less than 3 weeks, they want to try to disturb the process that we go through. But with a professional like Sid and a title company like us, we are going to take those steps that are necessary to vet that buyer or seller to make sure that they are not impersonating. And the other thing that they want a cash buyer. Oh my goodness, cash buyers beware. This is a really scary time. Your cash could be gone. And so it's really important to do that. And some other indicators to us might be they're refusing to come to the signing. They don't want to come to the signing. They're gonna have to do it, by notary or possibly online notary. But we've
Mhm.
caught a few people that way too. So I mean, there are protectants ready to go to stop people. And even an indicator could be that they're difficult to reach over the phone. They want you to use something different than your regular phone number. They want you to use
Yes.
Viber or
Chat
What's
GPT or
up?
something, one of those
I,
chats.
I get texts
what's
probably
WhatsApp.
2 times a week from somebody says, "Hey, are you a realtor?" It's the same line every single time, and I'm like, "Yes." And then like, "Hey, I'm a cash buyer and I'm looking to buy houses in Portland. Will you help me?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then they're like, "Great, let's talk via WhatsApp."
Yeah,
And
that's
I
a
hate to say it, I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I don't have time for you. If you don't have a real phone number, I'm sorry, but maybe somebody
yeah.
else can represent you, but I don't even waste my time. But that's such a
Yes.
time suck for me.
Yeah, and I think communication is key to working with a real professional. So they're not just going to text you or email. They're going to want to talk to you and meet you in person. And typically, the person that's impersonating does not want to do that.
Yep.
And they'll have demands uh, to proceed with wire instructions. They'll want their money wired somewhere, right? They
Yes.
want to get that wired to their bank account. And a lot of times, they don't want to do what is really important. And what we do is that multi-factor authentication for identification verification. So that is probably one of the most important things that we do. We are always going to have all of our sellers, if they can't come in person, to do that. And Patty is like the expert at, when somebody comes in, Patty, you have a procedure that you guys go through when somebody comes in person, right? What do you typically do?
So if the seller, I've only had it happen once so far, where the first thing we do with a vacant land seller is they have to take a picture of themselves and upload it to a system we have, which is very similar to what's at the airports. And then they have to upload a copy of their driver's license. The machine can validate if the driver's license is fraud, and then the machine can validate if the selfie doesn't match the license. So that's step one. And if they pass through that, then we're confident that they are not fraud, because sometimes when they are a fraud person, they just disappear after they know they have to go through this process.
Mhm.
If they do not want to go through that process, I had it happen once. It was an older couple. They didn't want to do anything on the internet, they told me. So we just pulled a report and I kind of interviewed them. I had everything right there. I had names of people they know. I had old addresses where they lived, all kinds of stuff. And I just asked them a lot of questions, and it was vacant land. And at the end, they came in a little upset and nervous. And at the end, they were very thankful that we worked so hard to make sure it was their land. That's what we do on our end.
Mm,
Um,
that's wonderful.
yeah, since we've had that in place, it's really helped stop. But like Linda said, one of the things that we also do is we're very particular on who we will accept as a notary. We have to have Fidelity, our underwriter, have approved the notaries we work with. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes if the person is in another country, then they could go to the embassy, and then we have ways to look to see if that person actually worked at the embassy. Coworker got a deed back from, I think it was somewhere in Africa, and they said they were going to the embassy. I think it was the embassy or consulate, and the notary came back and that person didn't exist at the notary, at the embassy.
And they had signed something, the way we caught it, they had signed something wrong in the signature, and the escrow officer caught it. Then we called the consulate and found out that there was no such person at the consulate. So
Mm,
Mhm.
we were able to stop that identity theft right there, and
wow.
the imposter, the seller impersonation. Yeah,
I
pretty
think as soon
powerful.
as we start putting down what we need, if they're not the real seller, they kind of back away.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
think that's
we're
so
told,
important, Patty. That's so important, right? Like giving
yeah,
that information. You guys are starting to do that on the escrow side, saying we're going to need all of this, and advising this the agent as well as the seller. Here are all the things you're going to need up front, right?
mhm,
Which really it immediately kind of vets those people that might be impersonators. They don't want to
Yeah.
comply.
no, they don't. Linda, you mentioned below market value. If
Mm-hmm.
I have a transaction in escrow, and let's just hypothetically say the house is really valued at 800,000 and the contract is 495, I get an email from title asking what's going on. Why is this marked so low?
Hmm.
Because we've looked it up. Why is this so low? So I recently had that happen. It wasn't that high of a sales price, but the property was in really bad shape, and it had literally had to be demolished. So I was provided pictures. I sent those to my title officer and she approved and we moved forward. So we do our best, everything we could possibly think of to protect the seller. And then we also want to protect the buyer because, you know, what if the seller was a person that was an imposter, and then, they want early release of earnest money. So that's something to think about. We don't want to release that earnest money till we really make sure they're a legitimate seller.
And that's why it's so important to work with a professional like Sid, where they're going to be looking out for your best interest on the buy side too. You're not
Yeah.
going to want to release those funds until the identity is definitely verified that these are the sellers, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
important.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Really
heard
good.
from upper management that there's 8 to 10 attempts a day in the state of Florida.
A
Wow.
day in
Eight
Florida.
to 10 a day, because a
Yeah.
lot of those properties are non-owner occupied.
Yeah.
I
So,
get, like I said, I get 3 of those texts a week
yeah, it's
trying
just
to,
overwhelming.
I have one listing.
It's overwhelming.
I'll share a vendor scenario that was super scary. I have a listing in Portland here, and it's a house that's been updated and everything like that, right? It's all ready. We're listed. We're on the market. And this roofing contractor calls me, and he's like, yeah, I did the inspection on the roof, and I'm gonna send you the quote to repair the roof." And I'm going, "The roof was just put on 4 months ago. What in the world are you talking about?" Number two is, I never asked you to go to the house and
Oh my gosh.
give a quote on the roof. And he's like, "Oh, I spoke with John Smith, so and so, and he said to give me a quote." And I'm like, "Well, John Smith is not the owner of the house." And he's like, "What?" He said he was the owner. And I'm like, "No, he's not the owner. So and so's the owner." And then he's like, I was kind of wondering about it because, my quote's for 30,000. And so he said, just bill them for 40,000 and give me the 10,000 difference.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like,
Wow.
number one, this guy that you're talking to is not the owner. Number two, you do not have permission to go onto the property and evaluate the roof.
Right.
Number three is we don't need a new roof. It's 4 months old and you're being scammed. 2 days
Yeah.
later, the owner of the roofing company called me because, they're of course quite worried because they literally were ready to start putting on a new roof
Yes.
on my
So
listing.
scary. That's a lot of money, especially on a new a home that already had a new roof. Isn't that scary? Yeah.
And I was like, what? What are you talking? But They are out there, they're trying hard. You just
Mhm.
have to be super savvy, which I hate to say, but you really do. You have to trust
Yep.
and verify. And I appreciate the tools that you give me that helps me to quickly verify. It takes me just minutes to clearly understand who the actual owner really is, with a lot of the tools that you've given us. And but that's you just have to do that, to protect yourself. And the bottom line is you're protecting your sellers and you're protecting your
Yep.
buyers. Because I would hate to see a
100%.
buyer lose their earnest money.
No,
Oh, that would be horrible.
that would be
Yeah.
horrible.
And I know we're all doing our part by, filing fraud reports and turning people in, right? But these fraudsters are slippery people and they keep doing it, but we've got to stay vigilant, and I think that's why you need a good professional on your side that is an advocate for you, the consumer, both on the buying and selling side, and to
Yeah.
protect you. So we
Absolutely.
try to make it easy and not complicated and not scary. We're all fun and good people. It's just that this is a scary topic. We never want anybody's property to be jeopardized. So just really bringing that to the forefront and letting everybody know that it's out there, I think is so important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh man, my heart goes out to the people where you hear these stories and you're just like, oh man, you never want that to happen. And so, but I'm just grateful for you guys' support, I mean, gals' support. You've helped me immensely, and that's makes my job easier and saves
Mhm.
us a lot of time. And those filters that you guys have in place will save us from the getting too far along in the process to where it could be not fun for anybody involved.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that
the
and
real
those are
estate agents, oh, go ahead, Linda.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Betty.
I would say, I think the real estate agents are the first line of defense. And if they can get by you, then we're the second one.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think between all of us, we'll make sure they don't succeed.
exactly. I don't talk to people on WhatsApp.
That's
Yeah.
smart. And who would even use that? Even if you're out of country, you can text.
It's interesting.
Yes.
Like I thought about it, and maybe it's some overseas investor, and oh yeah, I got the overseas investor with all the cash
Yeah,
that wants to buy
yeah,
20 homes. What agent doesn't want that deal, right? What agent doesn't want that cash buyer
yeah,
that needs to buy 10 houses now? That's what we have those fantasy dreams about. And and I am going to get them one day. I'm going to get the legitimate cash buyer that has that. It says just buy me 10 houses. And
yeah.
Right.
That'd be
We
but
nice.
love that.
but until then, trust and verify.
I love
Absolutely.
that advice. So good. So good.
Absolutely.
Well, I think you guys did an awesome job. Thank you for having us on, Sid. We really
Yeah.
appreciate this.
Thank
I
you.
I hope this can help people, because just getting education out there, letting them be aware is, I think,
Yeah.
half
And
the battle.
if anyone ever has a question, I'm available.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We love to help consumers and, of course, our realtors and connect you with the right people so that you can get the help that you need. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate both of your time. I know you're super busy. But yeah, this is just really, really good stuff. Really good stuff to know about. So
Thank you.
appreciate it.
It's great to see
Thank
you.
you.
See you both.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
All right.
you.
So